life like, you know, the family of a laundry life in the Deep South. And as far as that's concerned, any immigrant kind of laundry labor sort of situation. I can remember, you know, my father getting up, you know, the crack of dawn, you know, Monday through Friday at least, and going down to the laundry. And when I say down to the laundry, I mean literally, because we lived above the laundry. And in my research, I've found that just about every Chinese laundry had a family living either above, behind, or under the laundry. And that was true also for a lot of other immigrant merchants, like grocery stores and so forth. The families all lived on the premises. Part of that was to save money, no doubt, but also part of it was for security purposes, to like protect the resources in the store. Also, it was sort of like in some cities, it was very dangerous for Chinese to be out on the street after dark because they might be attacked, you know, in certain areas of the country, at least in a certain era. So I was kind of struck by a lot of the parallels that I saw in the immigrant first generation laundrymen, grocerymen, small restaurant owners, and so forth. So anyway, in our case, laundry is not the most glamorous business that you can imagine. You're dealing with dirty, smelly laundry that no one else kind of basically wants to touch. So you're like, in one sense, dealing with a very unpleasant sort of task. But I suppose you could look at it another way. You could say, wow, we have magical abilities. We can transform these dirty, smelly things into, you know, shining, clean, gleaming articles of clothing. You know, and maybe there's some social satisfaction, you know, of fulfilling that sort of function. But it's hard work. And in the course of doing this, I know that a lot of times the hired help wouldn't show up. And then there was this big work schedule to complete to get stuff on time because customers would be irate if their laundry's not ready on time. So my parents would have to like work extra time, overtime. And we children, as we grew older, we also, you know, participated in some of the work, maybe not the heavy duty work, but certainly, you know, we had responsibilities in the laundry and participated in the work. Growing up, we probably didn't appreciate that, but you know, looking back in hindsight, I think we learned a lot about discipline, we learned a lot about responsibility. From our parents' point of view, they never really had to worry, where are your children? They knew where their children were. They were right, sort of like next to them, you know, pretty much every day, and so helping out, you know, with the family responsibilities. Laundry also had other kinds of problems. For example, I guess the thing that's joked about a lot with regard to Chinese laundries is the laundry ticket. You know, the lost laundry ticket was sort of the bane of our existence. Many customers would just come in and expect you to know where their laundry was, even though they either lost or forgot their ticket. And some of them could get quite irate, you know, if you didn't produce their laundry. But what that meant is you had to kind of go around looking through just about, you know, well, say every package, but you had to make an educated guess, you know, as to what size of package, how long ago it had come in, and so forth, and try to open it and see if it's right. No, it's not the right one. Wrap it back up, go find another one, and finally, you know, satisfy people. So you had to do a lot of customer relations, you know, because you're dealing with people. People are sometimes demanding and unreasonable. People would come in and say, oh, you lost my shirt. I brought in 5 shirts, there's only 4. You better pay for this, or I'm going to sue you, or whatever, or beat you up, or whatever, something like this. And then the following week they come in and say, oh, you know, my wife left the shirt at home. I'm sorry that I made such a big ruckus. You know, we had this shirt all the time. So, you know, you're kind of dealing with those kinds of things, and that's sort of the environment that you grow up with. You know, I guess anyone in any service industry has to kind of deal with customers who feel that they've been wronged. In terms of our life as a family, we really only had probably Sunday as, you know, a time when we were all kind of free, because like during the weekday when we were in school, our parents were working and so forth, there really wasn't much in the way of, you know, family togetherness, I guess you'd call it. But I guess Sunday, in the laundry business at least, was kind of a day off, although there was a lot of work to do maintenance work on repair equipment and so forth. But probably the highlight of the week would be the Sunday dinner at noon or something. And my mother very often would like go and buy chicken and for dinner for Sunday. And she'd bring it home on Saturday, and it would be alive, of course, be in a little cage, and I would play with the little chicken all day Saturday. And then on Sunday morning, it's time for lunch, my mother would whip out her meat cleaver, and she'd grab the chicken by the legs, and the chicken would be there, you know. I know it's not pleasant after dinner talk, but you can imagine what was going to happen. My mother very deftly executed, or whatever you want to call the chicken. I was 3 or 4 years old. I was just sitting there watching, and it didn't bother me. It didn't bother her. I mean, now when I think about it, I think I would have been should have been a little more upset. But that was just the way, life was, And so we had fresh chicken every Sunday or so as part of our dinner. Being in a small town, there really wasn't much to do. In those days, there was no television. My parents wouldn't appreciate television anyway. So we would maybe go to the movies. And then occasionally, my father would take me, or maybe one of my sisters as well, on a train ride to Atlanta. That was really our only early experience outside of our own, just very little small world. We went to Atlanta because we had an uncle there. My uncle doted on us. He would sometimes come to visit us. We would sometimes go to visit him. But it was really kind of a special thing for him and for us. He was, quote unquote, a bachelor, although he had a wife and 4 sons in China. And he was one of those cases where the family and he were separated for some number of years. So we sort of became his sort of surrogate family. We became his children, in effect. And he pretty much spoiled us rotten, and he would bring us a box of See's candy, not See's candy, Whitman samplers in those days. And then when we'd go to the train station, he'd give each of us $1 or something. And we thought, boy, our uncle is so great, our parents are so cheesy, they don't give us anything, but boy, Uncle Joe, he's the greatest. And so he was kind of like my hero, and he was really mainly my only contact with somebody who was Chinese outside of our own family. And so it was extremely valuable to me to sort of have that kind of relationship with someone, kind of outside the family. There were some other Chinese laundrymen in Atlanta as well, a handful of them, and I got to sort of know them a little bit, maybe not really well. My uncle would sometimes, and my father would sometimes take us down to the Onlyong Association, which I called gambling hall, because all I saw people was, playing cards or playing mahjong or something. And I would just sit around for a couple of hours, and then until my father was ready to go home, because it would take 2 hours to go home, because we'd have to take the train, because we only had Sunday to do this. So we'd go up in the morning, spend a few hours, then take the train to get home, so my father would be ready to work on Monday morning. And so, by osmosis, I kind of learned the concept that all Chinese run laundries. Because I didn't know any other Chinese, adults, that's all they did. It didn't necessarily bother me, I kind of thought it was a little odd, but, as a child, you form these weird kinds of concepts. And there really wasn't much for me to do except sit and wait, because I didn't have anything to talk to them about. But I would listen to them and nostalgize about China and talk about relatives and talk about what they're going to do when they retire and go back to China and so forth. And so I got this sort of picture that all these Chinese laundrymen in the South that I knew anyway, were here working to send money back to support their families in China, their relatives in China, and that their ambition was to be able to make enough money to retire, but discrimination housing. Well, for us, there wasn't a problem because we didn't have the best housing anyway. We lived above our store. It really wasn't even a residence, you know. It was just sort of like storehouse that we converted into a residence. So there wouldn't be a problem there. Now, if we had probably wanted to go and buy a house where all the mansions were, that might have been a problem. It would have been a problem, yeah. But we never really confronted that. Now, I have talked to other people, and they talked about that was a problem, you know, that certainly certain districts that they would not let Chinese in. And we know that's true even in San Francisco as late as 1950. I remember when my mother came out in 1952, she got property on Polk Street, which was, at that point, the western edge of the Chinese community. There were not very many Chinese as far west from Chinatown at that time. Yeah. Other questions? Yes?
How old were you when you moved to San Francisco?
Right. How old was I when I moved to San Francisco? I was 15. I just finished junior high, and that's when we moved because my two older sisters were about to go to college and stuff.
So you basically went to high school in San Francisco?
Yeah, I went to Lowell High School when I got here, and that was kind of a rude awakening, actually, because it was a much bigger frog pond than the one I was used to. Yeah, well, in Georgia, you know, they got some smart people there, but, you know, Lowell High, pretty tough competition. So when I came from, like, being the best student in my school to suddenly being one of the small fish, you know, it's kind of like an adjustment to me. Yeah.
What kind of machinery did you start with?
Yeah, right. What kind of machinery did the laundry have? Okay. By the time my parents were there, it was not really a hand laundry anymore. Like a lot of the early Chinese laundries were hand laundries with an 8-pound iron that they had to heat over coals and get it hot enough, and then lug it over, wait till it cool down the right amount, and then put it on the clothes and not leave it on too long because you'd scorch the clothes and then the iron would get cold and you got to go lift it over and get it over the clothes. My parents had steam equipment, okay? So the machinery was more mechanical kind of thing. So the washers were bigger and operated by electricity and so forth. So I don't know, does that kind of answer your question, what kind of equipment we got? Yeah.
Did your parents operate another laundry in San Francisco?
By then they were sort of retired, so they did a laundromat, which is a lot easier than doing a laundry. I mean, some people don't know the difference. I mean, a lot of times people say, oh, you know, Celebrite Rice is about a laundromat. Well, it's not a laundromat. Yeah. So laundromat is kind of easy compared to laundry. And when we first moved out, after a couple of years, there was a laundromat below this place where we lived on Polk Street. And then so they went out of business or sold it, and my mother took it over. And my mother, ever resourceful, kind of like ended up learning how to try to repair the equipment herself. And sometimes she did, you know, which was pretty amazing. But yeah, it was a laundromat. Yes?
You were 15 when you moved out here. Yes, sir. Was there an issue with generational dating as far as living in the neighborhood?
Oh, well, at 15 I wasn't dating. I was not very precocious. Probably a year or two later, you know, there could be potentially a problem. You know, it's kind of hard to say exactly. It might not have been blatant prohibition, but you know, everybody would stare at you, not necessarily in hostility, but because it would be so seen as kind of odd. But you know, it wouldn't just be the whites or the blacks who would be bothered by it. Your own Chinese parents would be bothered by it. That, you know, it's not as acceptable as, you know, in China. And certainly, well, one of the prime reasons why we moved to California was my parents wanted us all to marry Chinese people. And there weren't any Chinese people to marry down there. My uncle's children, when they finally came over, his sons came over in the 50s, and they lived in Atlanta. There was still a lot of matchmaking. So someone would say, hey, I know a girl over in Augusta who might be suitable for your son. Let's pair them up and let's meet them together and, you know, form something like this. So it turned out, ironically, that a couple of my male cousins in Atlanta, they ended up marrying other Chinese who were in the South. And I, who moved to California and then lived in other parts of the country, ended up marrying someone who was Jewish. So Okay. Did I describe getting up in the morning? It was extremely cold.
Yeah.
I don't remember saying that, but it was.
I read it in the book.
Oh, in the book. Okay, all right. Okay, I thought you meant I said it tonight, and I'm trying to think. Okay, did I say that? Okay, I'm glad you clarified that. Okay, in the winter, yeah, it was extremely cold. It wasn't as cold as in Chicago or New York, but you know, 20 degrees is pretty cold, you know, and so yeah, in the winter, getting up would be extremely cold. But on the converse, in the summer, going to sleep at night was extremely unpleasant because it was extremely hot. We've been sitting on top of a laundry that had been steaming away all day. It's hot and humid there. I can still remember to this minute now. I'd be there trying to sleep. We had this oscillating fan, and when the fan would come, I've never quite understood why it was the military didn't have their own laundries, but you know, the soldiers coming in, oh, you get a little breeze, that's great. And then the fan would go away, you know, and that's how you lull yourself to sleep. That fan would come, the fan would go, the fan would come, the fan would go, because everybody had to get a little bit of the air, you know. So yeah, we had both extremes in Georgia. Yes. Who else wants to know about it?
Was there much in the way of competition for laundry in Georgia?
Yeah, you know, everywhere there gets to be some sort of competition. We had no competition with Chinese laundries. We had one in San Francisco where you had a lot of Chinese laundries. There was competition, and there were laws or rules set up by the association that Chinese laundries could not be any closer than 10 buildings next to each other because you don't want people to get fights over customers. But we did have a dry cleaning competitor who was like 2 doors down, run by, you know, Caucasians. And, you know, they, my mother was kind of bitter about them getting certain advantages because they were white, because like the city would give them a loading zone or, you know, a yellow zone in front of their store, but we couldn't get one. And then if a customer pulled in there and came at our place, the other people would go and drive them away, and, you know, that sort of thing. So yeah, that was competition. We survived. You know, it was enough business. Certainly during the 40s and early 50s, business for laundries was good during the Second World War. On weekends to go carousing or something, and they bring their laundry in to us to do, you know. But I mean, we can't complain. We got the business, and